does is make catches. He doesn't have any idea schematically of what he's trying to do, which is a pretty big problem if you're trying to run a football team. I've said this before. I'll continue to say it. He makes big plays, but he's not able to do anything in the blocking, as far as blocking, as far as, he is not assignment sound. He is not schematically sound. So, he's not going to make this football team. Rico Gathers is not going to make the Cowboys, despite all the nice catches he's making in preseason football. G. Garcia says, gotta go, guys. Where you going, G? We just started. By the way, I'm Ari Temkin. You can hear me on 105 through the Fan, part of the Dallas Cowboys pre- and post-game show. And a reminder, next week, Sunday Night Football, Cowboys and Cardinals. It's going to bother me for an hour, isn't it, as I do this entire stream. Cowboys-Cardinals, we're going to be broadcasting live for the pregame show out on the Miller Lite West Plaza. It's going to be a lot of fun. Come say hi. But more importantly, if you'd like to go to SeatGeek.com and use promo code PHANTOM. Here's the deal. Preseason game number 3 is always the dress rehearsal. So if you want to see, pretty much what you're going to see in the regular season, you're going to see the starters play well into the second half. Presumably, which is, we'll get to this in a moment here, but if you want to be there for a big game, Sunday Night Football, it's the biggest preseason game of all of them. So you can get the discounted tickets because it's preseason, so those tickets are always discounted. And you want to get $20 off your order, go to SeatGeek.com, use promo code PHANTOM, FANTOM, and they're going to get $20 off your first order. I know that they have 300 level seats, row 3 or row 4. You can get for like $50 to $60 a piece. So you buy a pair of those, $120. You're going to get $20 off. You pay $100 to get in the building, and the entire first half will be all first stringers. So you can get to see all the guys that you want to see in their final tune-up before the regular season, because we're not going to see anybody playing preseason week number 4. So come hang out with myself and Jesse Holly. We're going to be broadcasting the pregame show live from the West Plaza, the Miller Lite West Plaza. Sunday Night Football at the AT&T Stadium. And again, go to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and use promo code PHANTOM, F-A-N-T-O-M, to get $20 off your first order. All right, keep the comments coming. I'm going to be checking in on all the pages we're broadcasting from. And thank you to everybody for joining us today at noon Central, every day at noon Central, right here on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media. Let's see here. Curtis Stark's in the house. David Sanchez says, is Jerry going to get Earl? Please say yes. Well, really, David, it's probably about Stephen Jones and not Jerry, but the point remains. Is there a greater emphasis for the Cowboys to now go after Earl Thomas now that Xavier Woods is out with an injury? And though the Zach Martin injury, we seem to be fairly optimistic on the status of Zach Martin moving forward, maybe less optimistic about Xavier Woods, in his injury. And again, this was a guy that there was concerns about just based on the fact that this is his first year as a starter. He's trying to step in at free safety. And, so my question to you is, do you all think that there's now a greater emphasis for the Cowboys to go out and get Earl Thomas? Or could they go out and get George Iloka, who was starting free safety for the Bengals for the last 5 years before he was released after the game on Saturday? So, would you rather them trade a second-round pick, which that could be the deal that gets it done today for Earl Thomas, or would you rather go out and sign George Iloka in free agency to shore up the hole they have at free safety? Andrew Blanding on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page asks why they're holding on to Chaz Green. Because they have 90 roster spots for training camp. He can play both the tackle and guard position, so he's multifaceted. But Andrew, the long-term answer to your question is he's not going to make this team. So, Chaz Green is not going to make this football team. So, he's with them now through training camp, but once they cut down to 53 after the final preseason game, he's not going to be with the team anymore. Eric Kushani says, Reed, Iloka, Thomas, pick one, anyone at this point. Well, Eric Reed's not coming to Dallas. I've talked about this before. I'll continue to, whatever your stance on the anthem protest, Eric Reed has been pretty outspoken. He even if he said, well, I won't be kneeling this year, I don't see a fit there with the Dallas Cowboys, and I think that's the reason he remains unsigned. He's really talented. There's no reason for him not to be signed at this point other than that. So I would say at this point it's basically between Eric Reed. At this point, he's not going to be here. It's between it's between George Iloka and Earl Thomas. I'm back to looking like the Terminator. I'm going to have to turn off the light here. Sometimes it's too much light. Sometimes it's not enough light. I've got the shadows from this office that I'm in that's seeping in It's making me look all, weird. But my apologies on that. I'm not the most technically sound individual, so just keep the comments firing. Joe Tranchino in the house, what's going on? Sabrina Cockrell says, gives me the thumbs up. Sabrina, how are you? Curtis Stark says, I was uncertain at first, but from what I've seen, we need Earl Thomas to solidify our secondary. Nicholas Price says, how about implementing a fullback that has reliable speed and hands that can obviously block for Zeke as well? I think the Cowboys like what they have out of Jameis Olawale. So I don't know that there's any concerns at this point over their fullback position. Curtis Stark says Awuzie is going to be a playmaker. That's right, Curtis. And if you've been watching this stream since I was in Oxnard, I said he was the best player I saw at training camp. Chidobe Awuzie was the best player that I saw at Cowboys training camp. He just every single time they went 7-on-7s that first week that I was there, he was making plays on the ball. He was draping receivers. And we didn't really see that in preseason week 1, but we saw that in week 2. We saw that against Cincinnati at home, and I think we saw the corners play considerably better than they played in week 1, especially because that was a point of emphasis from my vantage point because they played poorly relative to how well they had been showing out at camp. I'm just going to do this until it goes away. I think it's the sun is the problem, so I might have to adjust the lights in here. My apologies, everybody. Thank you all for being a part of today's broadcast. Every day I stream live. I take your questions on the Cowboys. We interact. It's questions. It's interactivity. It's all that stuff. So every day here at 12 noon on Phantom, wherever you're watching, but make sure to subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this on the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page, let me go check out that page. Make sure everybody who's asked questions can have their questions addressed. I'll try to get to as many as I can as I bounce around all these different platforms and pages. I do have points that I want to make about the game, which I'll get into. But again, a reminder to make sure to like or subscribe on YouTube to the Phantom page, Phantom. That's where you can like the page. And, let's see here. What else we got? Cowboys X Factor in the house. Ari, that Cheeto INT was legendary. Praying Woods will be okay. Yeah, again, if you've been streaming me since training camp, I said he was the best player that I saw at camp. Better than Zach Martin, better than Travis Frederick, better than Zeke Elliott. He was the best player that I saw at camp in the week that I was there. And again, we didn't really see that week 1 of the preseason in San Francisco, but we saw that, last night or Saturday night. Not just the fact that he had that great interception, but I mean, you noticed they didn't target him or who he was on basically the entire game. I mean, he played well in run fits against the run. He was just exceedingly well, and he was everything that. That we thought. So, yeah, that INT was ridiculous. I thought Jeff Driscoll, the backup Cincinnati Bengals quarterback that was in at that point, was throwing the ball away, and Cheeto just got a paw on it, tipped it up to himself, and then was able to catch it. Kay says, I like Iloka more than Reed anyway. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Although I like Earl Thomas better than Iloka, so go get Earl Thomas. That's kind of my opinion on it. Buddy Johnson says, Ari, is it time to panic at the safety position with Woods and Jameel Showers torn ACL? I mean, look, it was, and Eric Koshaney saying this on the Phantom page, but the safety's been an issue this entire time. So, look, they had concerns at safety. To me, it was always the weakest link. Maybe that or tight end were the two weakest links on this team. Now maybe there's a greater emphasis on going out to address that need because now that you've got the Woods injury, Jameel Showers is injured, Kayvon Frazier's been banged up. I thought Tyree Robinson, their undrafted free agent, played well at the safety position, went in. But, yeah, I'm very concerned, as I've been throughout the course of training camp, with what they have at the safety position. And, Leo Elena's on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page says, a position we never addressed. And that's why, so, like, the conspiracy theorists in all of us notice that literally every single number that you can possibly have from 1 to 99 on the Cowboys is taken, except for the legendary numbers, the numbers they're not going to give away. 9 for Romo, 12 for Staubach, Aikman's number. Nobody has 8, nobody has 22, nobody has 82. Witten. So, like, when you go 1 through 99 on the Cowboys roster, every number is taken 1 through 99 except for all the legendary numbers and 29. Which is that's like the conspiracy theorists in like, ooh, maybe they're holding it for Earl Thomas. It's just bizarre that every number 1 through 99 is taken, except for the legendary Cowboy players, and Earl Thomas is number 29. But Wayne Markley says, hey there. Hey, Wayne, how are you? But, yeah, I mean, look, at this point, it bears to reason that if the Cowboys have been reluctant to give up a second-round pick for Earl Thomas. That's the reason Earl Thomas remains sort of in limbo at this point. In Austin, training, getting ready for the season, not with the Seahawks. Now, maybe it's not even a second-round pick at this point. Maybe there's a higher asking price for Earl Thomas at this point. I'm not entirely certain, but if the asking price is a second-round pick and the Cowboys have been holding out for a situational second-round pick, or the hope being a conditional second-round pick and an overall third if he doesn't meet the conditions, then we'll see about it. But I think at this point, this defense looks like it's balling out. I mean, you've got studs along the defensive line. Randy Gregory playing and playing well on Saturday night. Plus, Taco Charlton's playing better. Tyrone Crawford. I mean, the thing is, when you've got a 14.5 sack guy on the left side and DeMarcus Lawrence, it's going to open up a ton on the right side. So, and then Jalen Smith, the way that he's playing, I mean, I'm going to get to Jalen Smith separately here in a little bit, but I mean, their front seven is dynamic. It looks unbelievable. So to really solidify that defense, Earl Thomas is the missing piece, in my opinion. My wife is in the comments saying that Asher is singing a song he made up about football. Can you hear it? Because I can certainly hear it in the room that I'm in, but I wonder if other people can also hear it through the microphone that I have. It's really adorable, and maybe perhaps later he can come sing it in this office studio that I'm in. Jeremy Mandel says Cowboys legend DeMarco Murray was 29. You can do better than that. Who else wore 29 for the Cowboys? That's a bigger that's a bigger stud. Everybody hit the share button if you wouldn't mind. Post your comments. Thank you to all of our partners here at Phantom. We're at 99. This is sweet. Let's get us over 100. That'd be awesome. Robert Morales, go get Earl. Nick Gigas says, I like Mike White, even though he doesn't get enough playing time. I like his arm. What's your thoughts? I think the Cowboys have a couple of big issues. One is at safety. One's at backup quarterback. I wrote about this for 105 Through the Fan. The Cowboys have a major issue at backup quarterback. I didn't like anything I saw from Cooper Rush at training camp. I haven't liked anything I saw from him in the first two preseason games. Mike White looks, and I think it was Law Nation who pointed this out. Or maybe it was Okoye Media, one of our partners at Phantom, who basically said he looks like a punter out there. Like, Mike White looks tiny. So, that's part of the problem is you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater because Mike White is a baby. I mean, he's a undrafted free agent. He's young. You want to give him the opportunity to grow into his body because he's 6'5". He's certainly got the size you want out of a quarterback. He's got a prototypical size and arm strength. The question is, can you sneak him out of the practice squad? Because I am utterly against keeping three quarterbacks from the Dallas Cowboys. John Missack says, are you concerned with Xavier Woods being injured against the Bengals? Of course. Yeah, because the prognosis on Woods wasn't as optimistic as it was on Zach Martin. So it looks like Woods could miss at least the first game. So, yeah, I mean, that's your entire offseason was geared towards having Xavier Woods be your opening day starter at free safety, and now that's not going to be the case. So who's going to be your opening day starter at free safety? My goodness, I hope it's not Tyree Robinson. And I liked what I saw from Robinson in the game on Saturday, but that's just problematic to go into week one with an undrafted free agent starting at free safety for this team. Let's see here. Boo, 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 boo. Chris Bennett wants to know if someone's painted a mural of Earl Thomas somewhere in Dallas. Somebody get on that. It's a great point. My wife says Jeremy Mandel, it's a mixture of the Jayhawks fight song and a Shabbat song. It's tremendous. Sounds good. Thanks. Wade Zetterberg says, who does that anyways, throwing a baby out with the bathwater? It makes perfect sense, Wade. All right. Also, are you concerned with the Cowboys blowing leads in the preseason? No, I'm not, John. Not in the least bit. Because you're talking about third and fourth stringers for the most part. So, and I can't remember who wrote it, but somebody mentioned, might have been Bob Sturm, but basically somebody was like, by the way, a couple of years ago when the Cowboys went 13-3, they blew a ton of leads in the preseason too. So, I mean, they're not blowing those leads if their starters are in. They're not blowing those leads if Zeke Elliott's in the football game. I mean, they've got. You've got a guy like Zeke Elliott. By the way, we haven't seen it get any preseason snaps. You can salt away leads. So no, I'm not at all. I'm not at all upset about that at all. Ray Pierce wants to know why there's such a drop off from first team to second team. I don't know that you can say that generally speaking. I mean, I certainly see that. I know, when I wrote the article about the issues the Cowboys have at backup quarterback and how concerning that can be, people were like, well, their backup offensive line's terrible, their third string offensive line's terrible, so they've got no time to throw the ball. And it's like, well, they're also going up against second and thirds. So it's not. I mean, it's not like there's first string. Geno Atkins isn't rushing the passer against the second and third string offensive line for the Bengals versus Cowboys. So, I wouldn't say there's just generally a significant drop-off between 1 and 2s on every position across the field. I think they've got some depth in some positions. I certainly think they have some depth along their defensive line, some depth along their linebacking core. Also keep in mind, I mean, they, going into the game, Tavon Austin didn't play, Leighton Vander Esch didn't play, Cole Beasley didn't play, Joe Looney is starting. So you already have Joe Looney, who's a backup, now starting at center. So that's your second being your one. So it's not just as simple as why is there such a drop off between 1 and 2. Let's see here. AC Calderon says Dalton Sturm. I don't think he's the answer at the backup quarterback position. Sean Moore says backup QB is a wreck, and yet some people want to replace Dak with Rush. Yes, Sean, I agree. It was as outlandish when people said it as it is. It appears to be today. Let's see here. What did Kenneth Gant said that everybody's laughing about? What did Kenneth Gant say? People said, LOL, Kenneth Gant. I'm not saying anything from Kenneth Gant. Can somebody get me up to date on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page and what Kenneth Gant said? I'd like to laugh as well. Deborah Guffey gives me the, what do they call that? The heart emoji? There's got to be a name for that. But heart emoji to you, Deborah. Neil Fawver says, I'm on the Earl Thomas train now more than ever because of the injury to Woods. We have a pass rush. We have ball hawking corner. I'm trying to read the rest. There we go. We have a pass rush finally. Now we need those ball hawking center fielders. Yeah. For me, if you're the Cowboys and you did not want to give up a second round pick for Earl Thomas, then why were you willing to give up a second round pick for Earl Thomas in the draft? That's what I don't get. Like, if you're at this point and you're basically just holding out firm with a hardline stance on not giving up Earl Thomas for a second-round pick, then why were you willing to give up a second-round pick for Earl Thomas during the draft? What's the difference? I mean, if you can give up next year's second for Earl Thomas right now and get him, that was what you were going to do a few months ago in the draft. Why not? So why not just do it again right now? Somebody tell me what Kenneth Gant said, because I can't find it. Let's see here. The legendary 29 jersey, LOL. Oh, what was his legendary 29 jersey? Was it DeMarco Murray? That was from my buddy Jeremy Mandel. What did Kenneth Gant have on the legendary number 29? Robert Preston Fowler says defense wins Super Bowls. Earl Thomas secures the safety and secondary in every way. Woozy paired with Thomas secondary, solid defense becoming potentially damaging every NFL East team. That's the saying, is defense wins championships, though it's not necessarily been, bearing itself out. I mean, go look at Super Bowl champions in recent history. They're either top 5 in offense or top 5 in defense. The majority of them, though, are top 5 in offense. So, offense wins championships. You just have to be adequate in defense. And I think in two areas where you have to be good or maybe, above adequate in defense would be pass rush and getting off the field on third down. Turnovers too, but turnovers are not necessarily something you could work on. Turnovers are, for the most part, a product of luck. Ultimately, I think offense wins championships, and I've been concerned with what I've seen from their offense. All right, I'm just going to scroll through all the pages, make sure I'm not missing any comments. I'm Ari Temkin from 105.3 The Fan. Hit the share button if you wouldn't mind. And also make sure, if you haven't yet, checked out SeatGeek, one of our partners at Phantom. If you like what we're doing at Phantom, help us grow Phantom by, 1, sharing our streams, and 2, helping out by going and checking out our sponsors. If you just go to SeatGeek right now and use promo code Phantom, that helps. Spend a couple of dollars, that helps too. If you use promo code Phantom at SeatGeek, by the way, you're going to get $20 off your first order. So if you're looking to go to the Cowboys-Cardinals Sunday Night Football game, awesome. You can go get cheap tickets. Look at SeatGeek, which aggregates all the different ticket brokers and ticket sites across all the different websites and platforms to aggregate them in one place. So go to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app today. Use promo code Phantom. They're going to give you $20 off your first order. Do it now and help out us, what we're doing at Phantom. If you like what we're doing at Phantom, which is delivering live sports and live sports content to the digital space, interacting with you wherever you are, then make sure to check out our sponsors and help us continue to get more and more sponsors. Let's see here. On the Silver and Blue Nation page, late catching up there, Jessica Haggerty gives me the worried faces. She says we have what we need. Interesting. So who starts at free safety for you, Jessica, on opening day if Woods isn't? Jessica also says he was holding out to get more money. Come on, man. Y'all know he not coming here. They're not letting him go. I mean, I don't know that I agree with that, Jessica, simply based on the fact that the Seahawks want him to play out the rest of this year and then enter free agency. That's what they want. He wants more long-term security. That's what he wants. He probably doesn't want to be in Seattle anymore, but he's willing to be there if they're going to give him the long-term security. So, look, Seattle wants him this year, or they want what they perceive to be fair market value, which I think they're looking at it and saying a second-round pick. But at any rate, it remains sort of unsolved. But Jessica, maybe you're right. I mean, maybe there is no price that they're willing to part with Earl Thomas. I just find that hard to believe, considering this is the last year of his contract. So if they don't end up with compensation for him, now they're going to let him walk, and they'll end up only with a compensatory pick. John Missack says Jeff Heath is a strong safety, right? Yes, that's right. Eric Koscielny says he still has 4 or 5 more great years. Players are playing deeper these days. I mean, who knows? And look, I was always of the belief that, like, you give up a third-round pick for Earl Thomas, and you still, have your future in Xavier Woods. But at least this year, Earl Thomas gives you a bridge year with a guy that can be a veteran presence that's won at the highest level before, that is a great leader, that knows this defense that Chris Richard wants to run, and knows, the technique and scheme from their secondary. So it just seems like a perfect fit to me. And look, I was always of the belief that you have to hold out for, third-round pick is fine, especially if the fact that he's not traded, to me, notates that there's no team that's willing to give up a second-round pick for him. So that says fair market value is probably a third. But at this point, if it's a second that's going to get the deal done, I think you have to do it. For the sake of bringing in a guy like Earl Thomas that is a proven leader, a proven winner, and is still one of the best free safeties in the National Football League. Right in the Law Nation page on Facebook, check it back in there. Ted Mitchell says White was a 5th round. Yes, that's right. Did I say that he wasn't? Richard Elizondo says we can draft a safety with that 2nd-round pick, a younger player that can help the team for years. The asking price is too high. I don't know. I mean, I don't agree with that. I mean, yes, you could draft a young safety with the 2nd-round pick. Or you could bring in an all-pro that's proven and is on track to become a Hall of Famer. You could draft a safety in the 2nd round, and he could turn out well. Or he could turn out like Gavin Escobar, former 2nd-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys. Or you can go get a guy that's a proven winner and a proven great player right now. Eric Koscielny says, 29 jerseys still open. That can't be coincidence. And Ray Pierce points this out, and that's a point I've made too. He can help teach the young guys in the defense. That's what you want. David Garcia says, what's your take on our backup quarterback rush? Looks like he's regressed big time. I wrote an article about this for 105 Through the Fan. Go check it out. By the way, I'm Ari Temkin from 105 Through the Fan. I host their pre- and post-game show along with the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. And I wrote for them this week about the backup quarterback situation is a major concern. A couple of weeks ago, I actually filled in on the Fan on the morning show with Sean Sharif, and he brought up the fact that the backup quarterback situation is definitely a problem. And I was like, it's okay, it's fine. It is what it is. They don't need to upgrade. But after 2 weeks of the preseason, it looks like they need an upgrade. Cooper Rush is not inspiring much confidence. He was on fire last year during the preseason, and he has looked pedestrian. If this were last year with Kellen Moore as the backup and Cooper Rush fighting for his life as an undrafted free agent, Cooper Rush is going to make this team. So why would you give him the benefit of the doubt now? I think you might call up the Jets and see what the asking price is on Teddy Bridgewater to be a backup, because they've got Sam Darnold's going to be the starter with New York. Josh McCown's their backup. So they're not going to keep Teddy Bridgewater. So you might ask, hey, what's sort of this advanced price on Bridgewater so that I know, before he hits the open market? Now, I'm not giving away anything higher than a 5th for Teddy Bridgewater at this point, but maybe you can get something for, maybe you can end up getting him, he's the only guy that you look and survey guys that could be available that's like, yeah, go get this guy because I'd rather have him than Cooper Rush or Mike White. Tyrone Gaylor says, what about Teddy Bridgewater as a backup? I didn't know if that preceded my Teddy Bridgewater comments or not, but I believe, Tyrone, you just heard what I said about Teddy Bridgewater, who he's not going to make the Jets unless they decide to keep 3 quarterbacks, but they've got Darnold and McCown as the backup, so they've got the rookie with the with the veteran as the backup. So it would make no sense for them to to keep Bridgewater. So you if you're the Cowboys, you got to call up and see what the asking price would be. Ted Mitchell says, if ET is the only part we're missing, I'd say yes, but we're 3 or 4 parts away. You really believe that? What do you think those parts are, Ted? J.R. Briones says, you're paying what for a bridge year? What about Iloka? Yeah, I'm paying a second-round pick for a bridge year. Because he's that good. Like I think people are forgetting how good Earl Thomas has been. He's an all-pro. And so, I mean, now I've called it a bridge year simply because I like what I've seen from Xavier Woods, and I'd like to see how he continues to develop. I'd almost, to me, the second-round pick obviously matters, but the money, long-term money and the commitment they might have to make would matter even more. That could compound the issues when you consider, they're going to have to extend Dak, presumably. They might look at extending Zeke, presumably. Some of these other rookies, Jalen Smith, if he continues to play. So they're going to need that money to spend on their own guys. So that's why I look and say, this guy, if he bridges the gap, even if it's for a second-round pick, that might seem outrageous. But think of how important he could be, again, to be a coach on the field, considering he's played every year in the NFL with the Cowboys passing game coordinator right now. Hit the share button. Post your comments. Say what's up. I'm Ari Temkin from 105 Through the Fan. We're broadcasting live along multiple pages and channels, and I'm trying to get to everybody's comments along all the pages and channels, so bear with me. I'll try to get to those as soon as I can. A lot of comments here on the YouTube page for Law Nation 2.0, so I'm going to try to address some of those. But a shout out to all you folks watching along YouTube on the Law Nation 2.0, and a salute to Lawrence Thomas, the great Law Nation, my buddy, my brother from another mother. Don't call me Danny Glover. Is that what he says? I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head. But if you like what you see and you're watching on the YouTube page for Law Nation, go over to the Watch Phantom page and make sure to subscribe there and support what we're doing here at Phantom. Ninja Nuts gives you the thumbs up Ninja Nuts. Great name. Adrian Soto says, keep Rico in the 53. Case says, Rico will make the team. Guys, Rico Gathers is not making this team. Mr. Bruce Wayne says if you cut Rico, he's going to get picked up quick. I agree with what people see with Rico Gathers. I see value in Rico Gathers. Don't get me wrong. But you'll see other plays where he just completely messes up the offensive fluidity because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's basically had 3 years at this point to learn offensive philosophy, offensive principles, and he hasn't. So a guy that is productive and can catch passes for you, that's great. The problem is he's not able to do much else and can become a major hamperment for the progress of this offense. Richard Lozano checks in. What's going on, Richard? How are you, buddy? So, I don't think he's going to make this football team. I think he probably will get picked up. But I also, there we go. But I also think that other teams will find the same thing, which is, maybe you can figure out a way to scheme him on the field to get him the football. But the problem is you're telling the defense what you're doing when you send him out there because he can't block and doesn't really know and understand how to grasp offensive principles. So, it's there on film. You'll hear it from scouts or former scouts and Brian Broaddus or whoever it is. It's like they know what the coaches are saying about Rico Gathers, and that is that though he's making some nice catches and he had another one against the Bengals, he's literally not doing anything else to make this football team, and that goes with understanding blocking, understanding route trees, understanding basic offensive principles and philosophies. Kay says, everyone forgetting how great Byron was yesterday. Ninja Nut says, Rico lumbers around everywhere and looks lost. Once in a while, yes, he makes an amazing catch. That's pretty much the perfect way. Ninja Nuts, thank you for pretty much summarizing exactly the Rico Gathers experience. He lumbers around, he looks lost, he doesn't know where to go, and then once in a while he makes an eye-popping catch. And every time he does it, it's like, from my vantage point, it's like, no, this is only going to bring up the misplaced love for Rico time and time again, which, again, gets me talking about it. Let's see here what else we have. Super Soul Cry says, and the other team can't stop him. I mean, first of all, he's going up against third and fourth stringers. Second, so you're talking about, he's going to be getting reps in first, second teamers during the regular season, and most likely first teamers, right? That are much more athletic than the guys who are going to be selling insurance in a few weeks that he's been going up against right now. The U says, if I were Rico, I'd been at the facility with a blocking coach all off season. Yeah, or for 2 years. I think that's where the Cowboys are right now. They're basically like, dude, you've had how long? 3 years? Is it 2 years or 3 years? Like, learn something. Eric Krishani says Rico is a $500,000 practice guy. Interesting. I didn't know that. And by the way, practice squad guys traditionally will make $100,000. So for him to make $500K to be on the practice squad, that's pretty good. But again, he hurts them more than he helps them offensively. That's been sort of the summary of the Rico Gathers experience so far. Let's see here what else we got. I'm checking back now on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. Keeping an eye on the Phantom page. Let's see here. Romo was finished. His body was done. It's why he was an announcer now. WTF. Oh, yeah, because Nicholas Price brought up the Romo thing. Yeah. Is Jeremy Mandel still watching? I know Jeremy will hit up the comments with his Romo love. But yeah, Romo was broken. I mean, haven't we gone past that already? And by the way, it wasn't the Jones family that was behind. I mean, it was Garrett, I think, that was kind of the first guy that was like, Dak's our guy. So we should not look at every move the Cowboys make and attribute it to the Jones family, quite frankly. They empower those underneath them, Will McClay, Jason Garrett, offensive coaches, defensive coaches, to make decisions and help them make decisions. It's not just an autonomous organization anymore, guys. They have a lot of people that are helping to make this final roster what it is. And that's the way quality organizations function. Neil Favre says, how great would it be to watch Earl smack some Seattle receivers around in Seattle this season? Awesome. Nick Gigas says 12-4, question mark. My official prediction is 10-6. Deborah Guffey says you're doing great. Thank you, Deborah. Let's see here. Let's talk about the slot cornerback situation from Sean Moore. Also, Sean, you don't win football games with that. With what I was talking about with Rico Gathers. Yeah. I mean, he can't. There was one point where he tried to make a down block during the game, and I mean, he just he didn't even block air. He didn't even attempt to block air. Like, he went for a down block and just kind of stopped and then went upfield. It was like, wow, that's not good. That doesn't help. It's not helping. By the way, I'm Ari Temkin. We're live on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media. Make sure to check out the page at facebook.com/Watch Phantom. But a thank you and a shout out to all of our partners here at Phantom, especially on the Dallas Cowboys side. There's lots of great Cowboys content out there, folks, so go check it out. Law Nation does fantastic work on Facebook at the Law Nation page, or check out his YouTube page, Law Nation or Law Nation 2.0. Silver and Blue Nation, producer G and Big Game James doing all kinds of great work with Silver and Blue Nation. Go check out that great page on Facebook and on YouTube. Dallas Cowboys America's team. That's where I'm checking out the comments right now. Dallas Cowboys America's team. Also the Dallas Cowboys Fans Club with the Z Fans Club. The Tried, True, and Bleeding Blue, where they do watch parties all over the Dallas area for Cowboys games. So go check out that page. Have I missed anybody? I don't believe so. And if I have, my apologies. But let me just again check back in all these pages, make sure I'm not missing any comments. What did I have for my second topic today? What to make of Cowboys injury scares? But Sean, don't let me forget Sean Moore watching on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. Don't let me forget the slot corner situation. What to make of the Cowboys injury scares? Change, and we'll just stick with the broad. What did you like? What didn't you like? And in a moment here, I'm going to give you what I did like and what I didn't like. Let's see here. From preseason week number 1. But first, I want to check back in the Silver and Blue Nation page. Gregory Leland says we need to keep Rico Gathers. Look, here's what I'll say about Rico Gathers and the tight end position as a whole, because I already said what I need to say about Rico Gathers. But The Cowboys are in need of a playmaking tight end in the red zone. That's a truth. And I've talked about this a lot. When you look at advanced analytics, the best red zone offenses have tight end threats in the red zone. And they're matchup nightmares because, corners, the size of corners in the modern NFL can match up pretty well with receivers and play them well in the red zone. So when you get linebackers trying to match up with tight ends, that seems to be a continuous matchup nightmare. That's the reason that the Eagles have invested so much into the tight end position with Zach Ertz and then Dallas Goedert as a second-round pick. Ray Pierce is back on Rico again. This is the point I want to make, not just about Rico Gathers, but the tight end position as a whole. I'm worried about it for the Cowboys. And so the problem is, Rico Gathers isn't the answer, but the problem is they don't have an answer on their team right now. They don't have a legitimate red zone threat at tight end, which I think is an important dynamic to have in the red zone. The best red zone offenses, the team that cash in the most in the red zone, are teams with really good playmaking tight ends. So that's the problem that I have. If they're going to be targeting Swaim and Jarwin in the red zone, I don't know that those are the guys that are going to give you matchup nightmares like we see throughout the course of the rest of the NFL. That's all I'll say about the tight end position. I'm worried about it. It's a major issue for the Cowboys, and Rico Gathers doesn't solve that issue. That's all I'll say. Let's see here. Do you think we'll keep McKay? No. McKay is a practice squad guy. Because they already have issues at who they're going to keep at running back anyways. I mean, they've got too many numbers there anyways, so how can they keep McKay? I mean, they're basically going to be able to keep one of the guys in the Deontay Thompson, Lance Lenoir, Noah Brown ilk. Only one of those guys makes the team if they're keeping 6 receivers. And at this point, I'd say it's Lance Lenoir, but even with that, I mean, Deontay Thompson's the guy they signed in the offseason. So certainly there is, he's probably got a leg up despite the fact that Lance Lenoir's had a great camp and has played well in the preseason. Let's see here. Ted Mitchell answered my question on the Law Nation Facebook page. O-line, backup safety, wide receiver, number 1, and one of the tight ends to stand out. O-line, you're fine along the O-line as long as you have Tyrod Smith, Zach Martin, and Travis Frederick. Safety, yes. Agreed with you there. Number 1 wide receiver, probably. And a tight end, I agree with you there. All right, here are the things that stood out to me from Cowboys-Bengals preseason week number 2 from where I was sitting in the press box. DJ Vega says Crawford's a big contributor, get overplayed. I don't agree with that. I think Crawford's kind of underrated. Tyrone Crawford's kind of underrated. Cowboys fans don't like Tyrone Crawford. I don't know why. He's okay. I mean, he's not great, but he's good. He's average. He's probably above average. But here's the deal with their defensive line. You've got DeMarcus Lawrence on one side, and he and his 14.5 sacks last year will command all kinds of attention on the left side, perhaps a double team, right? Which is going to open up one-on-one on the right side, the weak side, for Rico Gathers, he's on the name, for Randy Gregory, and they got RG, they're both RG, so it really messed me up. For Randy Gregory, for Tyrone Crawford, for Taco Charlton, for David Irving if he ever comes back. So Dorrance Armstrong. So they're going to have a really good defensive end rotation, which I'm really excited about. And a lot of that's due to DeMarcus Lawrence. Let's see here. Ray Pierce says, does Bo make it? Yeah. Bo Scarborough suffered an injury during the Bengals game, but he was back on the sideline working out. I think he's fine. It was a hip injury. However, I'll say this about Scarborough. Bo Scarborough's basically had injuries over the course of his entire career. In high school and in college, Bo Scarborough's had some pretty bad injuries. So that's something certainly to look for. But no, he's contributed on special teams. He's looked really good running the football. He's catching the ball in the backfield. Yes on Bo Scarborough making this team. Adrian Soto says, F no, Crawford overpaid. Yeah, I agree with the U. He's a good run stopper. He's a better run stopper than he is a pass rusher. He has a good motor, and he's a great leader. Agree with all that. He's fine. At what they're paying him, I wouldn't say he's overpaid. He's probably fair market value for the type of production he brings. At least that's my vantage point of it. Other things that I liked from the game. Jalen Smith. Guys, Jalen Smith is unbelievable. So there was a pass play that was completed down the field, and I don't know if you saw this. So was it John Ross? Is that his name? John Ross, right? Former 9th overall pick out of Washington. So John Ross is the guy that the Bengals drafted 9th overall a couple of years ago, who was 4.22 at the Combine. He broke Chris Johnson's 4.24 Combine 40 at 4.22. Well, he caught a 30-yard pass from Jeff Driscoll late in the second quarter. It was a pretty good catch. Jalen Smith was with him the entire way. Think about that for a moment. Jalen Smith, who really struggled and was exposed multiple times last season, time and time again. I mean, the reason the Cowboys defense couldn't get off the field in third down was because of Jalen Smith. So that guy was with a 4.22 guy, step for step, down the field. Now, again, Ross caught the ball, but it was insane. It was insane that he was with him step for step. That, to me, tells you a lot about how we're seeing Jalen Smith move. It's really impeccable how well he's moving. The front seven of the Cowboys, what's really weird is you hope that the offense will be where we expect it to be. Because sometimes it seems like in football, when you have these holes that come up, and it's like, so they had this great offense, and they had, this great offensive line, and they invested so much into it, and so now they had to plug up the holes in what they had on defense, and so they started to do that with draft picks, and now it looks like they plugged up those holes. But what happens in football a lot, because careers are so short, is sometimes when you plug up the other holes, now the holes on offense start to flow again. So I'm hoping that's not what's about to happen here, because I think there's concerns about the O-line. Especially if Frederick or Zach Martin miss significant time. So that's my feeling on it. Anyways, thank you everybody again for being a part of today's broadcast. I'm Ari Temkin. If you're new to the show, make sure to check out the page at facebook.com/watchphantom. I broadcast live every single day at noon Central right here on Phantom, the new world order of sports media. And again, thank you all for being a part of today's show. I'm back tomorrow at noon. Oh, also, I'll be at practice later on today, so I'll be doing a stream after practice. Make sure to check us out there.
News, notes, injury information, Vegas lines, fantasy football.